Milling Through History presents the London Beer Flood. In the year 1814, London experienced an event which, not quite a natural disaster, is perhaps one of the more unique disasters to occur within the city. There was a beer flood. Yes, you heard that correctly. A beer flood. Now, you might be wondering, how in the world is this even humanly possible? And truth be told, when we first discovered this event ourselves, we pretty much had to stop everything and say, this is worth investigating and learning more about. And so we look at this unique event and discover there's a little bit more to it than meets the eye. This event revolves around the Moe Brewery, which was one of the two largest breweries in London. The owner, Henry Moe, built a large wooden vat which could hold 18,000 imperial barrels of beer. Now, in the early 19th century, units of measurement were not exactly unified worldwide. As such, if you really want to know how much an imperial barrel is the equivalency of today through just a regular gallon system, 18,000 imperial barrels are the equivalency of 780,000 gallons. So imagine that much beer in one location. Now, in order to secure this particular vat, 80 long tons of iron hoops were used to strengthen the walls. Now, for the brewery, the beer of choice was porter, which is a dark beer and one of the most popular found in London at the time. In order to make it truly a high-quality product, a batch would need to mature at least for a couple of months before even beginning to think about selling it. But to truly make it worth its value, one had to wait a year before actually selling it. Now, the brewery was located next to the St. Giles Rookery, a slum which was seen as a rendezvous for much of what was described as the scum of London. Now, on October 17, 1814, George Crick, a storehouse clerk, noticed one of the iron rings on the vat had slipped off of the barrel. Now, for Crick, this was nothing really new to him, and he didn't think much of it. Rings had been notoriously known for slipping from time to time, but he felt it was necessary to notify his supervisor of this, and in doing so, Crick wrote a note to one of the partners of the brewery indicating this problem, when all of a sudden the vat burst. Now, the force of the beer, which came flooding out of this vat, would cause a second one to explode and release all of its contents. Now, how much beer flooded out of these two vats combined has been somewhat debated amongst historians and city experts within London. But the feeling is that anywhere between 128,000 and 323,000 imperial barrels of beer came flooding out. And so this could mean that, there could have been millions of gallons worth of beer flooding out of this brewery all at one time. Now, the force of the beer itself was so great that it broke through the rear wall of the brewery, and which was 2.5 bricks thick. So just imagine staring at a wall that's got 2 full bricks, and it just pushed its way through like it was a sandcastle. Now, once released from the brewery, the amount of beer was able to create a 15-foot high wall of beer that went flooding its way into the rookery. Now, the resulting flood itself would result in the deaths of 8 people, and due to the lack of drainage within the entire community, many people who lived in basements soon found their homes completely flooded with beer and were getting on top of furniture in an attempt to prevent themselves from drowning. Now, no sooner had everything had been damaged than, lo and behold, people wanted to come out and see what happened. Now, what ended up making this a rather unique situation is that the St. Giles Rookery was known for being a primarily Irish neighborhood. And in early 19th century England, the Irish had a very lowest reputation within society. And so most people thought that you would see drunken mobs of people just stumbling about the street, drinking the beer off of the ground. But instead, what's rather unique to note is that there was no impropriety going on. In fact, none of the newspapers at the time ever reported anything bad happening amongst the populace. Instead, the people just looked around the damage, attempted to pick up what few remnants of their lives remained, and attempt to rebuild from there. Now, watchmen were hired to keep an eye on the brewery during the subsequent trial, which was brought forth against Mo Brewery. However, ironically enough, the brewery had to pay nothing in compensation to any of the families of the victims, as the judge and court ruled that the events within the brewery was really just an act of God. As such, it was just a pure accident through and through. Now, one of the beneficiary events, though, that did occur for at least breweries is the method in which beer was stored, as it was decided that wooden vats were no longer reliable. Instead, concrete ones were invented, which had more support and could guarantee that floods like this would not occur. While this would be, of course, small consolation to the families who lost loved ones, the Mo Brewing Company did continue to run for a number of years until finally shutting down. But needless to say, while it's very easy to watch things like Family Guy and The Simpsons and see all of their tomfoolery when it comes to beers or even just some kind of event like that, it's important to understand that sometimes things that we laugh at from an animated point of view actually has its own reality in truth and history. As such, the next time you see a spillage of beer, just remember, what was just a small glass for you could have easily been a 15-foot wall. For more information, please consider these suggested titles. Be sure to click on the left-hand side of the screen to subscribe to our show, and on the right-hand side for our latest episode. And we will see you again for the next episode of Milling Through History.